Hello and a pleasant welcome to the program Focus on Liberia by Focus on Liberia on Prime FN 105.5 in Liberia. Also on our Facebook page, Focus on Liberia, our YouTube page as well. Welcome, folks, wherever you are. We want to say welcome and welcome to the broadcast. Again, it is the program Focus on Liberia on Prime FN 105.5. In today's edition, we have a very unique topic to discuss today. That topic is growing Liberia economy through the provision of electricity. And so, folks, again, improving the economy through electricity. Our guest in today's edition of the program is Dr. Christopher Neal. We are expecting him to join us in studio very shortly. Let me turn things over to our team there in Liberia. I see the man Prince comfortably seated in studio there at 105.5 FM. That is Prime. Prince, how you doing?
I'm good. Absolutely. And let me say, how's up to the guys in the US? We are pretty good here in Liberia.
Thank you. That is Prince in control there in Liberia. Seated and ready for the discussion. If a gentleman named William Kim, he is a member of Focus on Liberia FOL Marketplace, that is Business and Economic Forum. William, welcome to the program.
Anthony, thank you very much. And to our folks in Liberia, Prince, I know this is your first time meeting me and everything like that. So I want to say good evening to you over there. And once again, I have to maybe commend you because your face looks young and your smile is bright. So you must be one of those guys who are making all the money over there. I'm part of the FOL crew, and I want to say good evening to all our listeners who have tuned in Liberia. I'm a child of the soil from over there too as well. And just to properly say something about myself, I've worked for 13 years at a utility company called Southern California Edison in Los Angeles, and we were one of the biggest owners of renewable energy west of the Mississippi. And since then, things have changed and so forth. But just want to give our listener a little snippet that I spent 13 years in that industry. Not that I know everything that it is to know, but I speak from an informed point of view when I talk about electricity. And so I'm happy to be joining the panel. I'm also part of the marketplace. And so once again, just want to tell everyone who listening to one last thing. If you need a commercial or you have a product, you got to go to 105.5 FM. Don't wait too long.
That's great.
They're able to broadcast your stuff. And if you want to reach stuff on the internet, come to FOL as well. So with that being said, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. That was the voice of William Kim, a member of the Focus on Liberia Business and Economic Forum. And he has some experience in this energy sector, which is Liberia's greatest challenge, in my opinion, because we need it and we can't get it reliably, and that is sad. Also here is Mr. Alex Coffey making the panel today from the Focus on Liberia Business and Economic Forum as well. Mr. Coffey, another edition. Welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for having me, and thanks to our Prime FM 105.5 family for this partnership, and we are delighted to be on live in Monrovia. And this is the program Focus on Liberia Marketplace, where we discuss all things business, economics, and finance. And today we are expecting to get on Mr. Neal, who will be joining us very shortly. He's having some technical problem joining us, but he's been assisted to get on.
Thank you very much, Alex. And Anthony, I must say, please look at the bottom. I believe Christopher Neal is there, but I'm sure you see it as you're getting stuff ready. And to our listeners and to our viewers and so forth, our guest has also written extensively in the papers about electricity in Liberia. I have also written as well about electricity in Liberia. Another gentleman, Samuel Jackson, has also written extensively about electricity in Liberia. And as we guide and have this conversation, we are fully aware of the challenges that are facing our people in Liberia with regards to electricity. And we know that whatever we say with regards to solutions, that it cannot solve everything overnight and there will be some gaps. But the idea is for you to listen to some of these solutions so that at least we can begin to close some of the gaps, because they are plenty. They are plenty and they are plenty. Thank you.
Thank you, William. And folks, I saw our guest was just right here, but unfortunately he fell off. While we wait for him to come back as he tries to resolve the issue there, a little about our guest. Dr. Christopher Neal is an international energy and environment consultant with extensive experience in all facets of energy and environmental issues. He has done a vast work as an energy expert and consultant in several African countries, including Liberia, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Sudan, among others. Christopher was senior advisor on energy, environment, and climate to former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He spearheaded development and was principal author of Liberia's national energy policy that outlines strategy for post-conflict power sector rehabilitation, created the Rural and Renewable Energy Agency, and development of human capacity across the energy sector. His work led to the enactment of a new law in 2015 allowing private sector participation in power generation and distribution, and setting up an independent regulatory agency. He led Liberia's climate change negotiation for 4 years at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. He is an energy expert. He is an energy economist. We will now welcome our guest, Dr. Christopher Neal. Dr. Neal, if you can hear us, how are you doing there, sir? All right.
I can't hear nothing. What's going on?
So you cannot hear us? All right. He said he is not hearing us. Dr. Neal, are you hearing us now?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh.
Yes.
All right. Since
Hello?
Yes, we are hearing you loud and clear. Can you hear us?
I cannot hear anything.
Okay. He said he is not hearing us. But gentlemen, let us see. Let's get the ball rolling here. Let me start with you, William.
Yes.
You have had the opportunity to work in the energy sector.
Yes.
What is the importance of energy? In Liberia, we refer to it as current. Tell us the importance of this particular resource that we need as a people. Tell me about the importance of it.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Pretty much what's going on is that we have advanced to a certain point in our society now where everything relies and runs heavily on electricity. And what I mean by that is the internet that we want to use, it needs power to be able to transmit that signal. So it's very important that we have that. At hospitals, a lot of the machines that work offer electricity. Most of the components that we have in our cell phones, in our digital device and so forth, they need electricity to get going. It's such an important part that it's very hard to find any item that is manufactured for manufacturing, for vehicles, for telecommunication, or any of those devices that do not rely on some form of electricity. So as a society, we have become heavily dependent on electricity. And this is not just for one country. This is a globally. So it is something that is heavily relied on. Systems, government, your applications, things that need to be processed is rely on heavily with electricity. If I have an application for a university or a college, I submit it online. The administrator needs to be able to access that through electricity. Something as ice in the fishery business, well, you need, especially in a tropical climate, you need to have a certain level of electricity so that your goods are stored. So we are very dependent as a society. And in the Western world, electricity has moved from being something that is optional to being something that is a must, that is a need. And so their priority oftentimes is that the grid system must depend on that. The grid system depends on that, and the whole economy in the US depends on that. And there's a commitment by some electricity companies in the US that if there are outages, they make a commitment to have it back on within 24 hours. They want to have the electricity back up and running. So they have certain backup system. Granted, they've been running for a long time. They've been stable. And so they've been able to have a huge cash reserve to be able to do something like that. And we understand that in Liberia, it's different, but it's very critical for us. And
William,
houses will add on. Thank you.
Yeah, William, while we still wait for our guests and folks in real land and also watching on the social media, bear with us. Our guest, Dr. Christopher Neon, is here. We're just trying to resolve some technical issues, and you will be hearing from him. He is the expert when it comes to this particular sector. Well, we have a member of our team who can answer some questions while we wait for him. William, you use the word grade. I don't know what that is. And also, we hear about our major problem that we are having now as a country is the distribution of power. Tell me what those two things mean.
Thank you. Grid in the Liberian context or in the Liberian meaning, it just means our distribution or our electricity lines, the lines that we see running all around, the light poles and so forth. That's what I mean by the grid. For our listeners who I think it's important that we keep it where the rubber hits the road. So when I mean grid, I mean by your wire, your poles, those things that you see around on the street that transmit electricity. And right now in Liberia, if it's at night and you're going home or you look in a certain area that's very dark, during the daytime when you see that same area, you see that there are no poles, there are no light poles, there are no wires or anything, meaning that that area, the distribution has not come to that point yet.
And we hear about this thing called transformer. Is that part of the grid?
Yes, thank you very much. So your grid will consist of, for the simple man, consist of your transformers, your wires, your poles, your insulators. Insulators are items that are used to protect certain areas of the wires that should not be exposed. Those are big distributing stations that you see around. Those are all will be part of your distribution, or in the Western context, we call it the power grid.
Thank you so much. And you want to expand more on this distribution. So how is power distributed? I know you said you use the cables or the wires because it's through the wires that the power or the covering travels to get to your home. Tell us about the connection. How is it started? If my house needs electricity, if I approach you as a provider, tell me how do I get light at my house? Walk me through the distribution steps so that ordinary person will know how current is transmitted to their homes.
Thank you. So in a perfect system that is working fine, what happens is you build your home and you see up the street, there's a light pole that is running with some wires on there. You do not have the ability or the authority to set up your own pole and run the electricity to your own house. So you have to contact LEC, let them know that you have a home, that you intend on having electricity there. the last time I checked, there was a small fee for that connection. It might be between $300 to $700 for them to run the line and have the connection for that last bit of space to get to your house. And by that I mean less than 50 meters, okay, or way less. Nothing too big. So you will apply, and you will submit your application, and then you will be put on the waiting list, and then eventually they're going to get to you. And that's how you're going to get the line that will run to your house for your electricity. In a perfect society, you may say, I have to wait maybe 1 month or less. But in Liberia, with everything that's going on, it might take a lot longer time, or it may not come at all for quite some time.
Thank you. Let us go to Mr. Alex Coffey. How we're looking with connection from our guests?
Yeah, he's getting some help from Dennis. I managed to connect him with Dennis. And,
so will you let us know when all is set for us to bring him in?
Yeah, he is connecting. I think
I see him yet. Let's see if that issue has been resolved. I don't think that has been resolved yet. And again, folks, in Radio Land, our guest is Dr. Christopher O'Neil, an expert in this area of current. Let me use our Liberian language, but NNJ, that's the big word that they use. Once all the technical issues are resolved, you will be hearing from the experts. Our team from Marketplace here actually have questions for him that he will answer to give us a unique understanding the problems we have in how we can solve those problems, so that Liberian can be in a know that this problem that we have in, though big, can be resolved, and the ideas are available from the experts who know it. Mr. Coffey, while we wait for him, I know this area is not your expertise, but you use current every day or power every day like me. I remember some time ago, you are in the state of Texas. There was an issue and you guys went out of power. Tell me how it felt for those few days that you didn't have power.
I mean, it was crisis. As you know, when that was last year, February. In fact, 1 year after, this year around the same time, the same thing happened. We had, as a result of the of the snow. Texas is a warmer place, right? So, and the way the climate is here, it's like the kind of snow we have here is like the one we say from the North Pole, which is more glacier, which is more like ice, right? If you compare that with the Midwest, Minnesota, and those places, Minnesota snow is dust. Here is ice. So, and these states, like the southern state, they're not used to too much snow. So the system was not built, to combat the effect of snow. So when it happened, there was power outages. Light went off. It felt bad, right? For example, this year we were on the show, and light went off, right? And everything just went off. Internet, everything went off, and I was in the dark. Yes, my laptop could be on because it was operating with battery, but everything, the internet went off, so I was off the line. And just for a few minutes, the light went off, and it was hard.
So I want you to give us a picture of how life can be when one does not have power. If you don't have power, tell me the things that you can do, the things that you can use.
Well, the way the U.S. was built, the way houses were built, all right, when the light goes off, there are a lot of things you cannot use. You can't even use your refrigerator. You can use your stove if it is electric. And to the extent that even if it's gas, some component of the gas is attached to electricity to propel that gas.
Yes.
So you may not even be able to use.
You have to plug your stove.
Yes. You see, so you have to now go back to the old system. If you have the stuff that can William, the stuff that can roast the meat on.
The grill.
Grill. If you have a charcoal grill,
you can
use that one to cook. You can put some coal in there, you can use that. But I also remember people had to in Texas last year, people had to use wood. So they were supplying woods and stuff for people to cook and even warm themselves up because the heating system in the house will go off. So you can imagine it's cold outside, it's cold in the house, you don't have a heating system. So everybody had to use their cover up with thick clothing, like they're going into the snow and stuff like that. And people had to and the water system went off too. So people had to scoop the snow, put it in a bucket for it to melt and for them to drink, boil it on the firewood and drink it. So that's how bad it was.
All right. Alex, it seems to be the challenges with our guests continues. And so maybe some of the questions we had, we can be throwing those at William, who actually have worked for some time in the area. But before we do that, let us welcome Mr. Professor Larry Kennedy, a member of Focus on Liberia Marketplace. Larry, welcome.
Let me put my secret out there.
What's his name, Jika?
Don't say it again.
I'm not calling that name again. I won't call
he's the only person that actually know my real middle name. So don't repeat it.
Welcome, Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, sir. Good day, everybody. And I was following you guys on my way down here. And it's as always a pleasure to be here, man. And this whole thing about energy, this is so critical because I mean, you can't think of any way to grow an economy if you don't have a robust electric system. You can't find. There's no other way to boost the education system without electricity. To boost the healthcare without electricity. So not only we're going to have this discussion about the electric grid, how to pay for it, but who's better equipped to get this thing fixed? That's going to be another major challenge as well. The current government doesn't seem to be able to have a plan to get it done. They're hoping for change. They're hoping for rain. They're hoping for a whole lot of things, and that's going to be an issue. So let's get it on.
All right, thank you. And William, let us do this. When we're talking about energy in Liberia, we say current. There are so many sources. In other words, there can be few sources, or there are few sources that current can come from. Right. So where are the places current can come from for people to use in their homes? Give us those sources, please.
Thank you. I think one of the things that the audience is itching for me to say is generator. So first and foremost, you can use your generator. That's a source. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's an expensive source, but that's a source. Mm-hmm. The other source we have is our hydro. Mm-hmm. Hydro. So most people, they have become familiar with Mount Coffee if they didn't know, but now they're fully aware of Mount Coffee because of everything that's been going on. Mm-hmm. So we have hydro. The other area we have are called the heavy fuel oil. These are pretty much generator that normally you would turn on in an emergency if for some reason you're using so much current and more is needed to put into your distribution line. You would turn these machines on to add a little bit more. It's a high cost to operate, but we have that in Liberia, and I believe that is at Bushra Island. So we have that. We also have...
is that the one they call the fuel turbine or something like that?
Yes, the fuel turbine. Yep. And lastly, we have solar. So it's not heavily utilized in Liberia a lot, but there are some places where you look, you will see people have some private solar for their own homes and so forth. So in Liberia right now, those are the 4 areas that I know of that produces current.
And finally, before I can bring Alex and then Larry in, we heard about the West African Power Pool. That is another source of current that I understand coming from Ivory Coast all the way to Liberia that we can utilize to provide electricity for our people. What is the source of that West African Power Pool? Where is it coming from?
You wanted that to be Larry, you said, or me?
I wanted that to be you.
Okay, thank you. So the West African Power Pool, just to give you a quick background, was a consortium that was put together by West African nations, looking at ways that they can make that they could supply the need of electricity for West Africa. And they realized that pretty much if we could connect the distribution system, that we would have more power that could be distributed across different state lines. And so the idea was to come up with the West African Power Pool. And the West African Power Pool was basically a consortium of these countries. Now, we are part of one set of countries. The part of countries we're part of is the Liberia, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea. Yeah. So that's the one that we are a part of. And so being part of that system means that if we generate electricity in Liberia, we will have the option of putting some current into the West African Power Pool line. And if Guinea or Sierra Leone or Ivory Coast is in need of some of those powers, then we can then send that power that way. So that was the whole concept and thought behind the West African Power Pool. And to be able to be part of it, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just asking, and thanks for that very meaningful information you provided. That West African Power Pool, is it coming from a hydro? Is it coming from a dam? Where is it coming from?
It can come from that power that you put into your grid, can come from any sources depending on the country that is putting that power into the grid. So they can come from their generator, bigger generators, or it can come from hydro, right? Or it can come from solar, or it can come from heavy fuel operator, oil. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but the idea is that you have the ability to transport that to other areas.
I know that. I'm just curious for this particular West African Power Pool. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a generator? Is it coming from a hydro? Is it coming from a dam from somewhere in Africa? I just want to know where it's coming from.
Yes, yeah. So right now, Ivory Coast, they put power in the West African Power Pool, and that power is coming from hydro, and some natural gas.
Okay. So it's coming from a combination of sources, right? Not just one source.
Not just one source.
Thank you.
Yeah, William, is there a difference between the West African Power Pool and the CLSG?
Right. Thank you. I
think CLSG.
Thank you. So I think I would say the CLSG fits under the West African Power Pool. And the reason why I say that is because they fall underneath that agreement. The West African Power Pool is pretty much the market, right? And it's saying that, hey, in this area, you have Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and Ivory Coast. You guys will form the one. It's easier for you guys to connect because they looked at the existing infrastructure and they said, okay, these countries are closer to each other, and we're gonna partition them. For example, we're gonna make them into different sections, and we are part of that section, the Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, and Guinea section. But we all tied into the same thing. The West African Power Pool and CLSG, they're in of the same. CLSG is the consortium that now goes to build the distribution line.
Thank you. Larry?
It's great. The whole thing of pooling resources in Africa is nothing new. The power pooling thing is great, like what my man William said. Coming from hydro is great. One thing we should learn, this is another situation where we're going to be depending on sources of energy that is coming from outside of Liberia. We can't continue to keep relying on the extractive sectors to fund our economy. Resources from outside Liberia to fund our electricity. Because I think one lesson we should take from the war over in Eastern Europe, when your economy relies so heavily on what's going on outside your borders, if anything unfortunate were to happen, you can be shut down. We saw this during the Ebola time because our economy depended so much on the extractive sectors that when Ebola hit, when all of the foreign investors left, the economy tanked and then people suffered even more. Not only were we suffering because of what was happening with Ebola, but it got exacerbated. It got worse when the foreign investors left. It took a while for the economy to rebound. The power pooling is great. It's a good, I would say it's a good tactical strategy to bring power right now. But we need to have a long-term strategy. And that long-term strategy should be, look, we need to start looking at renewable energy. And this is where it would be great to have Chris Neal come in here so we can have this conversation, because we have been suffering on this whole, post-Civil War, Liberia has been struggling in order to have energy. And you can't grow your economy, which means your people will continue to be poor if you don't have a good energy source. So I'm hoping Chris Neal can get his little technical issues resolved so we can have this conversation. The African power pool is great, but why can't we do something inside Liberia? We have an abundance of sun. What's the problem with getting solar? We have all those rivers.
Right.
We can't even get hydro up and running. It's ridiculous.
Larry, if I can throw this at you, I think the point you're making there is about energy independence. In other words, where
that is correct.
We as a country can build our own capacity to be able to be self-reliant when it comes to the provision of electricity for our people. If we are relying on power coming from Ivory Coast, God forbid, why if we have crisis and Ivory Coast decide to cut us off, what happens to us? All right, when probably in the long run we'll have factories and homes that will be depending on that source of electricity. When it gets cut off, what do we do in that time? There'll be so much damage done. So, we don't have Chris here yet, but his ideas are out there. So I want us to really be discussing them, because chances are that, he may not show up. One of the things that he is advancing or has proposed is that let us be able to develop our own capacity. He talked about the hydro, the McCarthy, they need to augment it, right?
Right.
That way we are able to rely on it. According to him, when that work is done, it will be able to provide electricity for the entire country. But he said in his piece that the policymakers and our leaders have not been able to pick up that idea and try to fund it. That is the problem, meaning that they need to add to the St. Paul River, the hydro that is there, the McCarthy dam, it needs to be augmented. All right, and when that is done, then we should be able to have electricity. What do you make of that idea? RCAs are energy independent. Larry?
And you nailed the point. Energy independence is so critical to the survival of any sovereign nation. Any nation out there, a sovereign nation, you need to be energy independent. So, you have to look at history. You have to look at what's going on around the world. And you nailed it, Anthony. If we were to have some border dispute or have some issue with Ivory Coast, which is likely to happen, a lot of when you look around Africa, a lot of the countries in Africa are having issues because they have some very bad neighbors. If you take a look at what's happening in Ethiopia, the war that is going on right now, there's some issues over there, and it has also to do with some of the neighbors. So far, we've been kind of blessed to a certain extent. We haven't really had the kind of bad neighbors that other African countries have. But you never know. Anything can happen, right? So the one thing everyone keeps saying about, everyone has great ideas in terms of how to do this whole energy thing. Here is the one thing, and I see some good comments in here, right, in terms of privatization and all that stuff. Here is the one critical factor. Liberia right now is at a medium to high risk of debt default. We defaulted our debt back in 2000 and during the Civil War. And when that debt was forgiven, like around 2008 to 2010, it put us in a really bad situation, really, really bad situation. All these great ideas in terms of renewable energy and all that stuff, how are you going to pay for it? Anyone who's talking renewable energy or anything about energy, the first thing you should ask them, please, how are you going to pay for it? You're going to run to the World Bank? You're in a debt sustainability program right now where you can't pay your bills. You're in a moderate to high risk of debt default. What makes you think you're going to get this money from the World Bank? So people need to explain how they're going to pay for this stuff, right? Because it's the same reason right now Liberia hasn't been able to pay the $4 million debt to become part of this whole energy pool. We can't even pay that $4 million bill. So how are we going to fund a new project for a new energy renewable energy or anything. People need to explain that part. So they shouldn't just write beautiful papers with fantastic ideas, but you can't explain how you're going to pay for it. That's the critical element. And I hope, the gentleman will come on so we can discuss his paper and discuss how you're going to pay for it.
If I may, let me just, Anthony, if I may chime in to that issue, right? So what Larry mentioned was, what if something happened in a neighboring country and they're not able to come in, right? Well, I don't think we need to look that far. We're already seeing what that issue is. We already see it, and it's happening right now. Basically, in the dry season, Ivory Coast sends us power. During the rainy season, it provides power in Nimba, but during the dry season, they're also restricted. And so we are experiencing that right now in Liberia, where of course we're not a priority, which is fine. They have their country and they have priorities over there. Now to the issue of funding, this is where things I think get a little bit dicey, because on one end we know that Liberia is in a serious debt situation, so they can't really find that money. But I'm not sure if we've ever looked at.
Well, hold on. Gentlemen at Prime, I think you are discussing at your end there, and it's interfering with the broadcast. So please. Sorry, I had to do that because I'm trying to message you guys here to let you know that you are discussing that and it is interfering with the broadcast. So you need to stop. Continue, William.
Thank you. You see, you're messing with Prince Smile. There you go, Prince. Much better, man. So we are in a situation where we need to get financing, and this thing throws us into the hands of donors, and which was the situation about 12 years ago when President Sirleaf came in 12 or 16 years ago. Was the same thing, where trying to get the money, because electricity is capital intensive. It takes a lot of money. And she couldn't get the source for the funding from anyone else. And so the donors came in, but the donors play by their own set of rules. May I just propose, is there a reason why, as Liberians, we have not come up with some kind of a bond or anything? Alex, maybe you can chime in here. Is there a reason why we haven't come up with some kind of a susu per se to be able to build and the infrastructure that is required, raising money inwardly, looking at ourselves?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems, William. Financing electricity, how much it costs, first of all, with the ideal electricity situation that we want, whether it's solar power, whether it's the hydro, which has the reservoir to maintain the water throughout the dry season, to suck out the water during the rainy season so that during the dry season, we'll have a reservoir of water. What we have now does not have the capacity to do that. It's just downstream, the water goes and it supplies, it turns the hydro. And so during the rainy season, when the water level is high, we'll have electricity. But during the dry season, when the water level goes down. So the question is, how much do we need and how we can finance that? All right. Most of the time, donor funding is different. Sometimes donor funding can go to interventions here and there to conduct study, to do this, to do that, to do reforms and things like that. But when it comes to this kind of capital investment, we have to look within or we have to borrow. And like Larry said, our borrowing capacity is a little bit narrow. So how do we do that? Now, we had an opportunity to do that somewhere, and this is where Christopher New York can come in. We had an opportunity to do that a few years back when we got the Millennium Challenge money. But according to some of the experts that are rating about this, unfortunately, we repaired the existing hydro, right? Once we use that money to repair the existing hydro instead of going into renewable energy or solar like you said. We use some of that money also to do the gas turbine at the Bushore Island, right? So right now our situation is such that I think there are 4 of those turbines at the Mark Coffee. I think about 3 of them are down, so we're operating on 1. In addition to the fact that the water level is low, so we need to look inwards, right? We need to look inwards, but looking at our budget has just been increased to 785 million, and even that, it's going to be a little struggle to even get there, to get to the 1 billion or things like that. So with our budget situation being constrained, where we have over 50% of our budget going to salaries and not a lot going to development, it's going to be tough, right? So we need to think outside the box.
Can we not raise, Larry, Alex, can we not raise money, amongst ourselves as Liberians? Can we pass the cup around? Just throwing it out there.
Well, I don't want you to throw that. I don't want you to throw that out there, because that is a responsibility of the government all around the world. That is one of the major responsibilities of a government, to provide electricity for its people. Alex, let us do this. Is it possible you can contact Dr. Neon to call by phone? He can call my phone. I can connect it to the speaker. We really need him here.
Okay. I have been. Thank you for that one. I have been on the line with him throughout to resolve.
Yeah, so you can call him. If he can be on the phone, we can carry the show on by being on the phone. It does not have to be in video. So contact him, let him come here, so we can do that.
Anthony, I was referring to the fact that, can we not raise a bond internally? The government is responsible to set it up and everything like that, but can it not come to its citizens and ask the citizens and say, hey, we need X amount in years your return over so many years. Our credit is bad. Our stuff is messed up in the international world, but we have our people. They haven't done that yet. They haven't done it, Larry. Hey,
and I want to jump in on that idea, right?
You saying the government is bad?
let me first agree that is an interesting idea. How proud will we be as a people to say, look, at this point in time in our history, we had these huge challenges, and we have this huge challenge with electricity, and we came together as a people. We raised money and we solved that problem. Wouldn't that be so good? But the thing is, who are we giving the money to? We're giving the money to the government. Do we trust the government in the first place? Because there's no trust, people will not want to pay. Now, even if we raise the money, our governments have the history of not being able to implement and execute projects to a satisfactory level. That is another trust issue there. So as good as the idea sounds, my friend, it might be difficult, but it is doable only when there's trust. But that trust is not there, and that is an issue. Larry?
No, right at the time you were saying it, I see my brother Monday Galva here said the exact same thing. People will be willing to do that, but they don't trust the government. Mm-hmm. That is the problem, because if the government was credible, if people trusted the government, remember that this is the government that ran they ran a $25 million, $17 million mop-up scheme, mm-hmm. and we have no evidence of where the money went. They had their own version of SEAL Team 6, mm-hmm. but that team was only good in terms of making money disappear. We didn't see how the money was impacted in the economy, So that's a problem right there. People would be willing to invest in some type of energy bond, mm-hmm. but they don't trust the government. That's the problem, mm-hmm. So that's, how are you going to raise that kind of capital? This is the same government I was looking to get money from Eton and Iboma, and look what happened. They were looking to deal with some shady companies, and look what happened. So yeah, you can raise the money. A lot of countries tend to raise the money when you want to see infrastructure like a bridge or something be built. How do people raise the money? They put out a municipal bond of some sort.
But thank you.
To do that,
and Alex, let us know if you get Dr. Neil on the phone.
Hey, Anthony, while Alex is getting that ready, there is a institution. It's called Africa 50 Infrastructure.
Mhm.
Africa 50 Infrastructure, and currently, right now, they're one of the major institutions. They're located. I think their headquarters is in Nigeria, but they are one of the institutions that actually African that raise funding for infrastructure projects.
Okay.
And about a month ago, one of the ladies that work there, she did mention that renewable energy is good and that Africa definitely could benefit from this. But she also offered a way to transition into renewable energy. And one of the things she talked about was liquid natural gas. So they have funding. They have funding. I'm not talking about small funding either. They have significant funding for infrastructure project.
We
Now,
don't use the word big money. That's what most of us understand. That
yeah,
funding-
big money. They got
Yeah.
big money for infrastructure project.
Okay.
But guys, it seems like we're stuck on this hill where we know it's possible, but we question the credibility of the current administration, right?
Mhm.
So does that stemite, or does that basically make a solution not possible? Are we saying that we should just wait for the next 18 months, election come, and then if another person comes, or if it's the same party that stay in power, then we stuck for another 6 years? Is that what we're trying to tell our folks in Liberia?
All right, gentlemen, let us do this. There's something Dr. Neil said, looking at why we are where we are. And he says sometime back, the nation Liberia made a mistake by allowing companies that went into Liberia to get their own sources of power. He said the electric grid, the infrastructure should have been developed to provide electricity for places like Bond Mines, all the complaints that we had. But instead, our leaders allowed those complaints to develop their own sources of power. And so we did not have a much bigger buying community. And that was an issue. And he also said that when you talk about funding, if somebody is to give you funding to build your electrical grid, your sources of energy, they're looking at who are the buyers and how are you going to raise the money to pay us back. I see Dr. Neil here. Let's see if he can hear us and we can hear him. Dr. Neil, can you hear us now? The problem continues. And so, Larry, that is the economic aspect of it. Can you speak to that? We're looking at buyers. That is a key component that we need to look at. Even with the little we have, how many buyers do we have? I'm talking about big buyers, companies, who can purchase the power so that the LEC responsible for the management of electricity can generate the necessary revenue to be able to do further investment to provide electricity. Do we have that? If not, why we don't have that?
Yeah, so it's like building a house. You need a foundation upon which you can build on. You're not going to immediately have the large, big buyers until you have. There are several factors to economic development, right? So energy is one of the important factors. I see Chris is going in and out, so I don't know if he But anyway, you also need to have the human capital, but not just raw power. I mean, in terms of energy, because when you start building the economy, then you will have the people being able to also become buyer of the services. But right now, the people don't have the money to buy the services. But companies will come to Liberia if we have energy. You can have manufacturing companies. You can have clothing manufacturers. The reason being because we have this tax waiver program, this whole thing that Ed Royce and other people started, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. It creates an opportunity for companies that are going to Asia to now come to Liberia set up their factory and be able to export from Liberia over to the US without paying tariffs or taxes on certain goods. All of the incentives are there. So the big buyers will come, provided at least, but you see, they can't come, set up their own energies, build the factories, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because the cost of doing all of that will be much higher than just going next door to Sierra Leone or to another country that has the energy grid already set up. That's why they go to Ghana, go to Ivory Coast and other countries. We're competing with these countries. People don't seem to understand it. We're competing with these countries. You know, the AGOA, African Growth and Opportunity Act, is a great enticement to bring companies to us, but they're not going to come if we don't have the human capital, meaning we don't have people who are skilled. We don't have the skilled labor. We don't have the energy. We don't have decent healthcare. That's why a little small landlocked country like Lesotho is like one of the highest. They're pretty good right now in manufacturing. If you ever seen factories in Lesotho, there's a lot of women in there employed, and Lesotho is doing extremely well. Why? Because they invested in the energy sector. You know, I've seen some other comments out here about renewable energy and some other things, and I would touch on something real quick. A couple of years ago, we put together a team over here to discuss this whole biofuel of using trash to convert it into energy. And the people we were working with actually was a school, a university on the East Coast. This university had experience doing something like this over in Eastern Europe. So they were willing to come aboard, connect with the University of Liberia to set up a similar program and building this stuff. But it's just a lack of leadership in order to make this happen. So everything seems to run towards the leadership. And I think someone probably mentioned it over here. People seem sometimes to be afraid to bring knowledgeable people in their midst to get this thing done. They'd rather everybody just stay at that low level and suffer, as opposed to bringing in, you know, the technocrats to help to get this thing done. And that's one of the major issues in Liberia. You know, other countries, they invite the technocrats. Ghana search for the technocrats. Go to the Ghanaian embassy website. When you go to the website, the first thing to do is when you come into the US, they ask you to register on their website, put your skills. So in case they need somebody, they can reach out to you to go back home to go help develop the country. We don't have that stuff.
Thank you. And Mr. Coffee, how are we looking with our guest there? I want us to try the phone option. That will work.
Okay, hello.
All right, excellent. Dr. Nia, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Nia, you woke Prince up. We were boring him.
Thank you. I apologize, man. I'm in a hotel in Atlanta, and the problem was I'm on a high floor, and just the internet, my phone signal was weak, and I just discovered that. You know, that's why I couldn't access you guys, but I corrected that now.
Thank you so very much. It's good to have you. We earlier introduced you, and so we want to say thank you for joining us. At this time, I will turn things over to my man Alex Coffee to resume our questioning here. Again, welcome, Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. But I think we're in the midst of a discussion, and Larry was making some points there. I don't know whether he's done yet. Larry,
yeah,
are you
Larry
done
is
yet?
done. Larry is done.
Okay. Yeah. You remind me calling you Chris, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I'm very informal.
We're talking about this. Okay. So we're talking about this whole electricity thing, and this is just part of our series about how we can, make recommendations to improve our economy. Maybe people, the powers that be, can listen to some of these things and then take cue from some of these suggestions that we are making, some of these critical analysis that we are making. So electricity is one of the things that we believe that it can propel our economy into growing. And the lack of electricity, as the situation we have now, especially where there's light rainy season, there's no light dry season, there's power sharing, the problem of power theft, and things like that. And more critically, the overall solution. How do we resolve this electricity problem for good? How much does it cost, and how we can finance that? So we thought that an expert like you could come and share your ideas with us. So maybe you can give us some introductory statement in that direction.
And thank you very much, my dear friend. And I'd just like to say thanks to all of you. Every now and then I will watch Focus on Liberia. You will discuss interesting topics, and I have a lot of outstanding guests, and you are contributing to the new Liberia that we're all seek. So I'd like to thank all of you for that. And salute all of you panelists and hosts. And I'm pleased to be here. But look, Alex, before I get into anything deep, I just want to take off because while I was trying to get in, I could get some audio and listen to some of the points that were being raised. And before I go any further, I just want to pick up from where Larry, my friend Larry Kennedy, just expounded on, and that is as relate to the West Africa Power Pool and the CISG and vis-a-vis Liberia. Over the years, from the time I'm managing director at LEC and working over the years as a teacher, as a scholar, and we have always advocated for a West Africa interconnectivity, and then to what we call regional interconnectivity. We have it here in the States, and there are various power pools across the country, and they are all interconnected, and that is very important. And we advocated for that, and so we knew that I was coming on board. But what we did, and like we have always done with many errors that we have made, it was not to work on our hydro in order to have some sort of energy resource, some power that we could utilize the power pool to export. I said that from day one. The West Africa Power Pool is on, and the CRG lines are coming in. Let us be what we call first to market. I think, Alex, you know that very well. In this place, when you are first to market, you ensure, especially energy security. And we don't hope and we don't think anything will go wrong, but you have to make sure, and Larry pointed out, you have to have your own in terms of energy security, so that if anything goes wrong, you have internal energy security. Look at what is happening in Europe now with Germany. All of them are the mercy of Europe, of Russia, I mean, and that shouldn't have happened. They made a tactical error. I mean, well, not strategic error in up to Germany is about 45% of their energy dependence on Russia. And so it makes it very difficult. So the CRG, we, Liberia, should have been with our Mancoffey Hydro online, the Simpor River Basin. We should have been the one exporting power rather than receiving power. Again, it's because we have all the information and we fail to act. So I'd just like to begin with that before I go further.
Chris, you were managing director for Liberia Electricity Corporation during the Doe regime, the President Samuel Kyan Doe, the late regime, just before the war. And then you also were privileged to serve as the energy advisor, as we read in your profile, to former President Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And then you've written also extensively on this matter. So what is the core? What's the genesis? What is the core of this electricity problem? The genesis, the beginning. And then we also had the opportunity to receive over $250 million from the Millennium Challenge Corporation grant money. So what is the generation? What's the genesis of the problem? You know, could you care to comment on that?
Well, I tell you, I've spoken on that. I've done a whole lot of work related to the error that was being made, but the error kept on happening. The error has not been corrected, and that is we elected in the early 60s, instead of investing in our hydro like Kwame Nkrumah did in Ghana, we elected to let the mining concessions that were coming in to generate their own power from fossil fuel. And again, that was in terms of that type of error. You have two impacts. It's a multiple impact you have. So one is that you have to use your foreign exchange to bring in the fuel to run the generator. Number two, you are causing pollution to the environment because that's a fossil fuel based type of generation. And you know, all of the problem now with climate and environmental degradation. And thirdly, you then took away the opportunity, that a natural opportunity to develop your river basin, the St. Paul River Basin, because the mining concessions were quite natural off-taker. So while those negotiations are going on in the 60s for LAMCO and BMC and LNOC, all of those to come in, and Beaumont, we should have sat at the table with them, our economic planners, and they should have been fast-sided to say, okay, the concessions go on, but the power will be supplied from the St. Paul River Basin. And what you do, you get what you call an operating partner to come in. To you build a plant and you have an operator outside of the government. The government is a participant, but not an operator. And instead of doing that, we let LAMCO, all of them, to produce their own power. That's where the error started from. So when they made that blunder, then they decided to shop around for money to build the hydro, the St. Paul River Basin. And they went to all of the banks, the World Bank, all of the commercial and multilateral banks, and they asked Liberia, okay, you want us to lend you money to build your hydro. Where are you going to sell the power? And they look around Israel, so they point to Monrovia. And we're going to sell the power to Monrovia and its environment and all. And when you calculate it, without an industrial offtake, Monrovia, the environment at that time, even now, cannot provide financial justification for such a huge investment in a storage reservoir. So when they couldn't do that because of the error they made, they decided to shortchange themselves by building what we call run-of-river hydro and Mancoffey. Mancoffey is further downstream of the St. Paul River. And in the whole cascaded scheme to develop that river, Mancoffey was the very last. And they built that first. And they built it with run-of-river. So what happens is that we have huge rain during the rainy season, but in the dry season, you know, our heat, it dries off the river quite drastically. So the hydro cannot operate most of the dry season. And what avoids that is a storage reservoir. You build a storage reservoir, and it collects the excess water during the rainy season and stores it at there, and it's released gradually during the dry season. And that whole scheme, the storage reservoir, provides multiple benefits. One, you can do what we call fish farming. You can do stream farming. So that another line of business, right there, you go to Ghana, the Volta River Authority, Akosumo, the multiple fish farmings they have there that supply fish and shrimp to the local market in Ghana, and in some cases they export the tilapia. That was Ghana for tilapia. And so the next thing, agriculture connection. You use some of the water for irrigation, and so that you can have year-round multiple food production. Right now, one of the projects I'm working on for Botswana is solar pumping system throughout the agricultural belt, so that you can have multi crop production during the year. So if you have certain crops, instead of it producing on a normal condition once a year, you can have it produce at least 2 times a year because of irrigation.
Chris, because the time we started with you, we need to we need to go to the core of the matter and shorten the responses, so that, because we need to entertain calls from our people from Liberia, and we need to read some of the comments. Typically, we should be starting that at this time, at the 1 hour mark, but we'll give you some time to answer some of our questions before we go there. But we just appeal to you to shorten the answers, please.
Yeah, okay. The first part is just to give the genesis, which is much longer. The other one are just basically the shortcut answers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Naya, may I ask?
Then yeah, go ahead, answer me.
Yeah, you just said the biggest mistake that was made was to have allowed these mining companies and other companies in Liberia from the get-go to get their own sources of power. And so when Liberia decided to get loan to build it, the issue became, well, who are you going to sell to when your major buyers are now providing electricity for themselves? And that has been a problem. And my colleague asked, well, we have money from the compact. Why was that money used? My question now is it not possible, if the country finds the money, build the entire electricity source that you are suggesting, to go to these companies and say, look, you cannot be using your own source now. You have to use the source that we have built. And that way it can be reliable, because it's also going to help with the issue of the environment. Is it not possible to get to them when that is done?
Well, I tell you, back there when I saw energy advisor, when these mining concessions are being reactivated, we proposed that. Mm-hmm. and we're very clear about it, and say, look, Lamco is now becoming ArcelorMittal. Right. Bond mines is now being taken over by China Union, and then we had the Western Cluster, the old mining BMC and so on, LNOC. They were what we call the Western Cluster was coming online. So you had, and then Putu also in the not too far distant future. So the opportunity existed. So we say, look, let's not make the mistake what we made in the 60s. Let us go ahead and do the St. Paul River Basin. And we work towards that, but unfortunately, there's a problem with Liberia with execution. And that's why I say I do not blame any one administration. The problem is with us. I think in terms of making decisions to execute, and that's what Singapore did. What we had, they took it from all and executed. Liberians will get all their plans, including the St. Paul River Basin development, but we didn't execute. So at that time, again, we wasted the opportunity. Even when Brazil came in, and all of the concessions, they themselves, they wanted to be concerned with their coal business or mining for iron ore. They didn't want to worry about producing electricity. But those people know that government can go to them and say, I will provide you electricity. That's why you bring the private sector. The government becomes a participant, but not the main operator. The operators are private sector based. And so we had a company from Brazil, Odebrecht, that is well respected, major operators, contractor for building hydros around the world. They came in, but unfortunately, we dropped the ball again, and we were not visionary enough, or we did not have the willpower at all levels to have that online. So, and then the other opportunity we had for the St. Paul River Basin development was also the CLSG coming online. And I signed that note, said, look, we have another opportunity, not only to have the mining concession are off takers, but we had the lines coming in. And by the time our hydro is completed, those lines will be available that we can export the power to neighboring countries that we need. Like what I tell you, first the market. If we have taken that opportunity back then with Brazil President Lula, say I will help you to build a hydro, but we just had a paralysis in there, and that's where we are now. So if we want to have the money to build a hydro now, you still come to the question of off-taker, and this is why you have to be very strategic. I would say now you go to what you call the financiers, economic planners. They look at it now. They say, well, the best thing you do now, the CLG lines are there. The what they call the least cost for you for Liberia now is to bring power from Cote d'Ivoire, and that's why my first recommendation. Say, look, with that now, you have shot yourself in the foot. So to build a hydro now become cost prohibitive compared with bringing it in now from neighboring countries. So that's what we did to ourselves.
So
I mean,
you in your some of your papers that I read, you made a lot of recommendations of some of the things that you're alluding to, right? And so, and you also wrote some. I think I read some of your letters that you wrote to President Josh Weah. Now, the country continues. Yeah, we know that we made mistakes in the 60s. Yes, we made another mistake in the previous government, and we continue to make mistakes. But the country has to go on. The economy has to improve, and electricity is a good part of the economy improving. So, what can you tell President Weah today on this using this medium? How do we fix the problem? What do we do? What recommendation will you make now? How much does it cost? And how can we finance that? You being in the energy business, I'm sure you know about financing electricity and all that stuff. How can we finance that?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a very good question. First of all, right now, the entire world is going green. Climate change, renewable energy is what we have now in about every major country. And you know, Joe Biden has made climate change one of the key policy position of his government. And so for us in Liberia, with the technology we have, and which somehow provide some sort of supplement to Man Coffee, and so that Man Coffee operates during the rainy season, during the dry season, is to have what Ghana again just recently installed a complementary solar system. So you could take the entire, we got a lot of land, the whole White Plain area where Man Coffee is. Government could acquire a lot of land and build a solar farm. And one of the good things about this panel and the installation won't take a long time. You can do that in about a year once you put in the contract and you do everything. And you can put in, you can start with 50 megawatt. You can go up to 100, 150, 200 megawatt easily with solar. So that what happens that during the dry season, you have tremendous levels of sunshine that you use out to produce electricity and feed that into the Man Coffee substation and feed that into the population center and the other commercial and small industries around Monrovia. That can be done. The technology is available. So that's what I would recommend. It would be very efficient, and then you will get a lot of interest involved, and it's something that we can run with right away. No need for paralysis on that. Is something that I would recommend. This simple river development will happen, or it will be now. It will be over the long term. It will not be anything immediate, but we can begin with solar investment starting with about 50 megawatt right now. And again, the airport, Ramos International Airport, give me that project. I bring in my team, and I can tell you within 6 months, I have the whole airport operational on solar. And the technology is all available. Why are we sitting and trying to say where are the solutions? The solutions are right before us, but unfortunately, our country we don't listen to expertise. And Alex, you know that.
Chris, how much is it going to cost, and where do you think we'll get the money from?
The project, you know, that's a good question because I laugh because
just estimated.
Well, you know that old adage, you know, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. If you think power is expensive, try being without it. It is much more costly without it because the electricity, energy is at the top of the economic food chain. Everything comes to a standstill without it.
How much? Where do you think we can get the finance? What ideas you can put forward that we can learn from to get financing?
Well, there are different sources. Right now, the African Development Bank, they have the climate fund, and you just have to develop project to pursue it, and you can pursue it. I would recommend with public-private partnership. You can get some of the manufacturers involved, the operators, some of the good operators involved to come in. But again, let me just say this, and I said that in my paper. And at times, I see many of my good friends saying private sector solution is the panacea. It's what we should go with. No private sector. You open LEC now to private sector investment. No private sector will go in there because it's a mess. You have to clean up and prepare for private investment in terms of the overall operation of the utility. You have to have a lot of train and have better technicians, and then reduce the level of commercial losses, the power theft. It's just too much. And then improve the regulatory regime, which again was part of the overall Liberia National Energy Plan that I helped to write a few years ago.
Okay, Larry, you can come in.
Hey, Chris, nice to see you again, man. Two quick questions. What's your take on the statement that we need to wait for the rainy season as one possible solution to the energy issue in Liberia? I want to get your take on that. And the second one is, do you think the current LEC administration, do you think the people in there, if they're doing a poor job, do you think they need to be fired?
On your first question, well, let's go with the second one first. In terms of management performance, the performance is in the result. So when you ask a question, are they performing right, or are they okay? Look at the result. So it says it all. and you need to have a visionary management at LEC. That's for sure. And
so, I mean, based on the results, somebody performing like that, would you, if you were managing director, would you fire the staff, or if you were president, would you fire them?
Well, I tell you that most of those problems is from the management, including the managing director. So you need to bring a very competent management, and a lot of times you try to put it to the employees. Employees need training. If they are not capable, if they are not performing, it is because of management lack of vision to see where the training needs are. And you need to recruit and train new people. Look at the engineering school at the University of Liberia. Try to improve the engineering school, and so that you can have a better quality output from there. And then you hire them and train them. But it takes a visionary management to do that. And then on your other question about the solution being just a rainy season, that is ludicrous and very ridiculous. So you want to have half of your year. What about your productivity? You want to have zero productivity half of the year. Because without electricity, look what is happening now in the country with the lack of electricity just for the outages that last for some time. Now look at the economic impact. And if you continue to have that year after year, half of the year, you have a very weak economy, a very anemic economy, where there will be no growth. And that would be bad for the overall direction of the country.
It's okay.
You know what Chris mentioned and what Larry mentioned in 2012 is very interesting, because I mentioned the same thing, that hey, we got to get this stuff going, because if we don't get these things going, we're going to be falling behind. And we are falling behind, and most people don't understand this, but Liberia is just one country out of many for investors. They want to invest, but they're going to chase where they feel that is profitable. We are competing on a global scale. If we don't have our stuff together, these investors, they don't mind. They will go somewhere else. Simple as that. It's not rocket science. So right now we're facing this crazy situation. The price and the cost of putting poles in the ground, they're not the same price or cost like it was in 1980. Not the same that it was in 1990, and not the same that it was in 2010. It gets more expensive. And Liberia is just, we're going down, right? So it's going to be even more costly for us to get back up to our feet. But we can start somewhere, like they mentioned. It's not going to be perfect. We'll have to take a risk. We have to build. We have to put money into somewhere. And yes, we don't know if those factories will want to come, right? We don't know that for sure. We don't have all the answers, but we got to start somewhere. And we need industrial consumers. And so we got to get it running. We got to get the ball rolling. And I'm just going to say it. I do not believe that the current administration has that capacity, has the competency, or has the wherewithal to be able to do it. And we have 18 months till the next election, and we have 3 weeks till the rainy season. And so we are going to wait until the rainy season, and that $9 million debt, unless they decide to pay it, will be there for next year.
Thank you. Willem and Prince, we will be coming to you. So think of a question that you may have for our guests. Dr. Nia, I will have to ask this question. From my reading of your writings, I want to surmise that you are more of all options on the table kind of approach in finding solutions to our problems. But that said, I will have to ask, based on your expertise, which source of energy you think, given our situation, we should invest in that will be more reliable and provide the electricity that we need for our country?
Excellent question, Tony. I alluded to that earlier. We are in the age of climate change, and the entire world is going towards renewable. And so my answer would be renewable energy. And you know that hydro is also part of that renewable energy group. We have natural resources that God gave us. Sometimes we just look at the extractive resources, but we don't look too closely at the renewable resources that we have. And one of those is water. We have tremendous amount of rainfall, again, because we have very huge forest cover. And one of the good things that we have in our country is a lot of our trees were not cut down against the many years of the civil conflict with the restriction on our logging operation, help to preserve many of the forests. And so those forests help us to have some of the highest rainfalls around on the continent. And so we have very heavy rain during the rainy season. What do we do with it? That's money. If we can build a reservoir, the storage reservoir is costly to operate, but we can have year-round power production. The St. Paul River, we can get 800 to 1,000 megawatt out of the river. And what happens is that you build the reservoir upstream. There's a place pretty near the Guinean border where you have a tributary of the St. Paul River called the Via River. At the confluence of the St. Paul and the Via River is a natural catchment area, and that's why you construct a dam. And there have been a concrete dam or earth dam, either one of those. They are just terminology used by the civil experts. But you build a dam, and then what happens is that you build cascaded plants downstream. So at where you build the dam, you can have 200 megawatt installed. Yeah, and thank you for showing that. And you come downstream and you build cascaded plants. And what happens is that the water, as you regulate the water, you release it there, is filled during the rainy season. Maybe it will take a couple of rainy seasons to fill the dam. And then every dry season, you release the water. As the water comes down, it produces power multiple times before it comes down to the last one at Mount Coffee, and before it goes into the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
So that's the water resource that we have. And the other thing that we have also is the sun. We are blessed with tremendous sunshine during the dry season. Again, that's what I said. Our immediate solution right now is to invest in a 50 megawatt, which can go up to 200 megawatt, around the White Plain area, right near the St. Paul River hydro that we have now, so that we can harness the power of the sun during the heat of the dry for our use. And so those are the two solutions that I would recommend, and has been recommended by many experts, not just me, for Liberia.
Thank you. The Kavala River, you are aware, our history tells us is the largest river there. Have you not considered the Kavala River as an option for a source of power? If you have, and maybe said no, why? Because of the border? Talk to me about that.
If you look in the last paper that I wrote on the genesis of our power situation, I mentioned in that about the Kavala, and we had the Kavala, we had the St. John, and we had some smaller waters and streams around Liberia. That when I was a young engineer, that I worked on the development of power in the Liberia rural area. So many waters and streams that are conducive for various of hydro production, from mini hydro to macro hydro, and to large scale hydro. So the Kavala River Basin has been studied as well. And again, that's a source of power that we have that we could utilize for the entire southeast, as well as to export to the Cote d'Ivoire.
Thank you. Prince, any question from your end?
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Let me say hello to the dynasty. I mean, on the program tonight. I'm so happy that you came out, because I'm wishing to hear from you based on your expertise and how long you stay in the energy sector. I had two concerns. That the first one has to do with some of the problems here in Liberia, or some of the concern statements by Liberians here, is that the Salif government is responsible for the current situation the Liberian government is going through, based on the fact that money that was given by donors to rehabilitate the hydro not being used. What do you make of that? The second one is the proposal of the 50 megawatts solar plant built initially that can provide the energy needed. I mean, is that only for Monrovia in this environment, or are you also taking other countries in consideration with that recommendation? Those are my two concerns.
Yeah, the St. Paul River alone, if we don't even do any other hydro consideration, the St. Paul River alone has adequate generation capacity to cover the entire country for the time being. Except in the future we have some additional demand, but the St. Paul River business is adequate. And our country being small, you can basically run transmission line and around the country with distribution to different cities and towns throughout the country. I think some of that is being done now with this with the power being fed from Cote d'Ivoire along the eastern part of the Nema area coming from Cote d'Ivoire. In fact, that's why we owe the $9 million because of that access to those border towns and villages. But again, if you have vision for your people, and you work towards a program that you have set up, the plan, you execute a plan, we could have all of our small hydro, including the Kavala, the Due River, all of those in Nema, can all be developed on different capacity to feed our people, to feed energy to our people. And then let me just add this here, and this is very critical, because my area of research and expertise as an academic, my expertise has been what we call the productive use of energy assets. That's something that I've been working on from the time I started teaching at the University of Pennsylvania in the 90s, and that is now being pursued by various economic planners, including my friend who is a current president of the African Development Bank. He's an agricultural economist. And that is, you can use energy assets to productive capacity. And what more productive capacity you can have for economic growth, for employment and agriculture. And so when we talk about the hydro development, that whole storage dam I was telling you about, the storage dam is not just a dam in itself to produce electricity. It's also for irrigation. The water from there, from the dam, can be used for agriculture, especially agriculture belt of Lofa and Bon County and so on. So you can improve your food production And so the power availability can then enhance food preservation, food processing. Different agro businesses can be developed along that whole corridor. It's just a common sense thing that we can do. It doesn't take an expert, like me. It just you got to think critically as a country loving person to be able to implement this. And the hardest thing is to get it started. But in our mind, you think you are a grasshopper in your mind before you let other people take you to be a grasshopper. We look at these projects and sort of pursue them and know that it's good for our people. We just think they're too grand. And so the paralysis sets in. Unfortunately, that's what has happened. But these projects can be linked to agriculture and put people back to work all around the country.
Yeah, Mr.
Can I play a devil's advocate for a second here? And real short questions, Chris. What stopped the Ellen government from doing these things, number one? Question number two, what's your take on the sports park, the Invincible Park? What does it say about our priorities? And my final question, and you can give like real short answers. My final question is, you mentioned that we could possibly get money from the AFDB, the African Development Bank. But based on the report that just came out about the Global Fund and the misappropriation of the Department of Health, we saw the ambassadors from several countries going after this government to replace money because of misappropriation, and it was called borrowing initiative. We've seen instances where money put together or sent over to Liberia for a specific project has been misappropriated and used for something else. What makes you think that the AFDB will be willing to give this government money? So quickly, your opinion on the sports park. Tell us why Ellen didn't do these things, and your take on why you think the AFDB would give this government money, considering all the misappropriation shenanigans that has been taking place.
And thank you, Larry. Look, I've always said, and again, I'm very sincere about this. My frustration is not with any one government. It is with us as a people. They have started from the 60s. And every government that has come to power has just repeated the same error. That paralysis sits in. And it's not only with the energy sector, it's the same with health, it's the same with education, the same that everything in recent times just began to collapse and they get progressively worse. And so I don't know, what happened. I was there, and my records are there, and I have just published some of those. Those will come up in my book. I'm writing in more details, but it would not be a criticism of any one particular presidency or one administration. It is an attempt for us to change course. And even if it has to start with this administration, people don't see much of it. But again, I believe in miracle. But at some point, we as a people have to change course, and if we want to see all of these things happening for our country in the long term. And then in terms of the African Development Bank giving out money, you have to clean house. You have to make sure that you have the wherewithal to be able to. I think King said earlier about capital. Money is a scary commodity. It goes where it's needed, where there is not enough incentive, it will not go. So there are competition around the world. If we are not prepared for the investment, we'll not get it. There are different envelopes that they give to different countries, the African Development Bank, the European Union. Again, if we can use ours wisely, and we prepare ourselves, we cut down on corruption. I just did a paper recently on corruption, that one of the problems we have in our country, because in some of the decisions is greed. and that cause us not to see the vision ahead for our country and for our people, but we look at ourselves, and that has been a problem. And when it comes to sports, I've been a former president of Barroad and a sport lover, and I love sports to be an integrated part of what we do for recreation, for especially for all level. Sports and recreation is very important. But at times there are priority upon priorities that we should do. One of the things that had me as a former president of a major sport club in the country is our field. I will hope that some of that money will have been put to improve our stadium and our playing pitch to meet FIFA standard. That was just an unfortunate situation for us that our sports pitch could not meet FIFA standard, and we had to go abroad to play our home game. And so that's how I look at stuff. It's a matter of priority. Sports is important, but overall, it's an overall vision for the country and the direction that we're going that should matter.
Yeah, Chris, one last question on this question is about power theft, which we all know is one of the problems inhibiting our electricity situation. And I would put power theft into different categories. The fact that the ordinary citizens are engaged in power theft, which I believe is fueled by the issues of management at the LEC. And then the fact that big people are also engaged, the fact that they don't pay their electricity bills and things like that, and also engaged in power theft. And government institutions and agencies are already also owe the LEC money. And some of this is the reason, the reason why we have not been able to pay the CLSG consortium the 9 million or so that we owe and going forward. So as a former managing director of LEC, how would you handle power theft in these three categories?
That has been a power theft. There are several things you can do to avoid power theft, and they are all very critical. One is the commitment of government. That's very important. In commitment to apply the law. People talk about having an anti-power theft law on the books. I don't think personally that is necessary. You have prevailing statutes that, if enforced, can prosecute and take punitive action against those who engage in power theft. That's on the first level, commitment of government to enforce the law. Number two is the integrity of your employees, because a lot of the power theft comes from conniving of LEC employees. They do most of it come from them. So how do you avoid that? Well, I always believe the common people look at the top, and when you are at the top, you just don't say, do what I say, but don't do what I do. Then it's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. You to avoid contradiction and be what you say others should do. You set example to the employees, and then take action, and so on. I used to tell them that I would tell you to do your part, but at the same time, I will not in the evening after work pass to Lebanese merchant to get an envelope or accept anything from them directly or indirectly. That is contradiction. And once your employee found out that you compromise, they finish with you. They will do their thing. So it starts the fish starts to rot from the head. So you have to have again, I want to say the right management with the vision, and then you have to pay your employees well, so that the temptation of conniving for theft of power will be minimized. Then the other thing that I talk about, and this I share this with many, is being implemented by all over Africa now to some extent, and that is, instead of letting the power company reduce their rate to satisfy the what we call the urban pool or the rural pool, you don't do that. The provision of electricity to the urban pool, the rural pool, is the responsibility of government. So what you do is that you issue vouchers to these poor residents who got little hot and tea and have access to electricity, that those vouchers are used to offset their bills, or you have some sort of cooperative mechanism with the power company, so that they provide some low rate to the residents who meet the category. Again, you got to determine the category, because you see that way you got to fight corruption, because you see the category is for the poor people to get these low rates. You will get some middle class, some big shots, some minister, and say, oh, they will manipulate the system, that they will end up with the vouchers for those low electricity rate. So you have to set up the whole structure so that, like, in the United States, if the low income people, they don't get any special rate, but they get payment assistance from the state, or and the federal government through the states. They have the provision. The power company, if you can't pay a bill, they have social workers there who are in turn working with the state, and they take your case, to handle. So that's why they say, if you can't pay your bill, don't, just reach out to us, and we have the, people on board to help you. So those are the type of activities, things that you do, policy guidelines and procedures, in order to make your utility more functional, more efficient, and more effective.
You're on mute, Anthony.
Anthony, you're mute.
Thank you, gentlemen, for 30 minutes. That we will now be going to the phone lines, and this time we will be taking calls only from Liberia. The number to call is 0770-10051. Again, that number is 0770-10051. You can call that number to participate. And again, we are only taking calls from our end there in Liberia, from our Prime FM end there in Liberia. So Prince, let us know if you have a caller on the line. Then we will be going to that phone line to get our people speak to the issues, questions, and concerns they may have. We will take those calls. Again, Prime FM 105.5. The number to call is 077-01-0051. Prince.
It is 000-0770-1000, so that 1000.
Okay. Yeah, so read the number out to them.
All right, so let me read the number here in Liberia. The numbers to call, or the number to call on the program tonight is 0770-1051, 0770-1051 is a local line. You can call and be a part on the program tonight. Focus on Liberia with the panelists and of course our guests. that Christopher and you are there discussing the improvement of Liberia's economy through electricity. Again, the number is 0770 1051 0770 1051 is the number.
All right, thank you, Prince. So while we wait,
so we got a caller on the line. The very first caller. Let me take it right here. Good evening. What is the name? Where you call us from? Walk away from the radio, please. Your line is. Are you getting him? I'm sorry.
the line is bad.
You getting him clear?
Yeah, but the line is bad, so it's not clear.
Not you. I'm talking to Bruce Lee. So just on the line. Is it okay now? Answer, is it okay now?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Well, I heard the man saying about 9 billion. What is 9 billion is about?
The guest, right? You said the guest talk about 9 billion. You want to understand that, right? Thank you so much. We'll take another caller from the line here. Good evening. Oh, you slipped off the line. So call us 0770 1500. We'll take a few calls. 0770 1500 is the number. You can call and have your say on the show. Ask your question. The panelists will answer them. Your concern as it relates to this whole current issue here in Liberia. Call us 0770 1051. A caller is on the line. Good evening.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. What is the name? Where are you calling us from?
My name is Barry Wahu. I'm calling from Desborough. Thank you.
So can you get in answering?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing? What? Just a quick question for Dr. New. You earlier said that because of the messy situation at the LEC, no private entity will agree to take on LEC. Could you just please elaborate on that a little more? Because a lot of us have been calling for LEC to be privatized. But then this is a breaking news for us tonight. And no private entity to take on LEC because LEC is a fact. Please explain a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. We keep taking a few calls. I'm sure we're going to take 3 more or 2 more. Then we call it a day. Here we join our guys for the stakes. So call us on 0770 1051 0770 1051 is the telephone line. 0770 1051 0770 1051 is the number. We can take 1 or 2 calls and join Anthony and the team there in the United States of America. 1 caller is on the line here from Liberia. Good evening. What is the name? Where you call us from? You have to walk from the radio, please, or you lower the radio. Lower the radio. I'll cut you off. You don't do this here. You call, please walk away from the radio. We beg you. You can't do that. We take the very last caller and join Anthony and the team in the States. Just 1 more call. 0770 1051 0770 1051 is the number. Of course, taking just 1 call from here, and we'll be joining the team in the States to conclude. The last call is on the line. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Your name, sir, where you call us from?
I'm Mamadou El.
Make your point. What is over here now?
Because from the time is on your phone that is one for anything. They're not sure.
Thank you.
Everything is here with brand new kind of passing on without a wire in it. The last time I know
Thank you so much for the streets this morning. Just because you've been hanging off the line. Oh, sorry, just go. So, Anthony, can we take 1 more from here or can join you? Because
Take 1 more and then that will do it, please.
all right. So we're just taking 1 more call from here, so we can join our thing. So you just stay off the line. You can just call by or pick it up. Call on 0770 1051 0770 1051 is the number. The last caller is on the line. Good evening. Where you calling us from and your name?
Fine, my name is Solomon Williams.
All right, Solo, go ahead. From where?
I call you from the Beninka.
Go ahead, Solo.
Yes, thank you. I do recall when the director of the Institute of the Mayor was at LEC.
Mm-hmm.
When the next time visited him, there were some other measures put in place to straighten the LEC. I want for you to elaborate. How best can we straighten out the LEC at this time?
Thank you so much. So that does it for the core segment here. On our end, we're going to be joining the theme in the states, beginning with Anthony. Anthony heard what are the colors? I think you can just inform the new of some of the things. I'm sure you are also taking notes.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Because of time, we will get to our guest here to answer the concerns of the callers and to also give his brief closing statement because of time. Dr. Neil, let me hear you, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just briefly on these questions, let's give it some attention from Monrovia. The $9 million issues, as you all know, the $9 million is a debt that LEC owes power coming from the Ivory Coast, so that their receivable is a debt to LEC, and before they can provide any additional power on the new line that they are built coming to Liberia, they want that area to be settled. So that's the problem with it. LEC privatization, I just said, without creating the enabling environment, it'd be very difficult for any serious investor to come into that type of situation. I can tell you that, and you can take it to the bank. The environment includes trying to contain the massive theft of power and commercial losses, and also making sure that those who invest, can recover their investment. And a very important also to have a very efficient regulatory and independent regulatory body. That body is already in place. It needs to be capacitated and prepared for privatization, or what we call private sector IPP, independent power producer. And about the program, when I was at LEC, to change things around, I was advocating so some of these very issues, but the problem with LEC now is not as severe as it was when I was there, because we had corresponding thermal unit during the dry season, and the only problem we had with outages was when we didn't have fuel because of non-government payment. That's the main thing. Government did not pay its own lead bill. And in order to reduce power theft, we started a very elaborate public relations campaign. And our current president, President Weah, when he was in his glory day in Europe as a football player, and the LEC hired him to be the spokesperson. We did him on commercial. We had him on billboards around Monrovia. It was a very effective campaign where he appealed to our customers to pay their bill and to stop power theft. So those are some of the things that we did. Ready for my closing?
Yes, please do.
I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity for us to have this discussion. Again, my apology that due to technical problems, it was almost an hour late before I got in. Hope that we can do another time. I'm available anytime. But in closing, I just like to tell all of those listening in that where there's no vision, the people perish. And we as a people have to see the vision of where we want to be tomorrow in terms of our electricity, in terms of our culture, in terms of education, our health services. And so every sector is connected. So for power in Liberia to be alleviated, we got to have the vision. And again, I always say you don't put it on any one leader, even though leadership has a responsibility to change course, and none has been able to change course all of these decades in our country history. But we don't relent. We believe the future is there. We can improve it to be a better people, so that our people can have access to affordable electricity, and that opportunity will be provided them so that with the access to electricity, they can use that electricity for productive purposes, and that is to either to create employment or create some sort of income. Those are factors important to alleviate poverty, where you can link energy with agriculture. We'll end here today, and hopefully in the future we can further discuss on some of these things, especially as it relates to climate change and renewable energy, and how they are all connected to our tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neo, for coming. And I want to say a very big thank you to our panelists here. That's Larry, Alex, and William. And also to our Prime FM team there. That is Prince Mumba and Focus on Liberia representative on the ground, Theophila Williams. I'm Anthony here. Folks, this is how we'll come to the end of this yet another edition of our program, Focus on Liberia, being relayed on the radio there at Prime FM. The songs that will close us is called We Are All Liberians, and definitely we are all Liberians. And Dr. Nia, we will definitely reach out to you. We have more questions. We did not even get to 25% of them. Energy is so important, especially when we are talking about development, we are talking about investment, we're talking about manufacturing, everything, internet. Without energy, we cannot do anything. We cannot survive economically as a country. And so we must focus on it. And I hope policymakers, the government of Dr. Weah, they call him, is listening to take action, because what we need now is action on this issue. And we cannot be playing baby. The song, We Are All Liberians.
Lastly, Tony, I'd just like to say to all of you, have a joyous Easter. And to our Muslim brothers and things who are in Ramadan, I wish all of you a very successful and prayerful Ramadan.
Thank you, Dr. Nia. And so, folks, that will do it. This song, We Are All Liberians. I'm Anthony here saying to you, bye-bye on behalf of my crew here. Bye-bye, folks.
We are Liberians.